Chapter 1, Democracy and the Dragon, April 1992, April 1993. Friday, the 10th of April, 1992. I woke up after about 4 hours sleep to the Today program. Predictable headlines. Major wins, surprising victory. Party chairman loses seat. I don't feel particularly depressed by what has happened. That's partly because while I predicted that John would win the general election, I told him this last Monday, I also thought it was inevitable that I would lose my own seat because of tactical voting by Labour. When I also told John this, he thought I was simply being characteristically pessimistic. My relatively sanguine feelings are also in part the result of the unsavoury and unpleasant behaviour of the crowd outside Bath's Guildhall when the result was announced. I think I would have felt worse if my opponents had behaved better. For millions of viewers, the resulting pictures were obviously pretty disturbing. It all left a nasty taste in the mouth, and must have been an awful shock for Laura and Alice, who were in Bath at our headquarters, and for Kate, who heard all this on the World Service in Latin America. They were all upset. But as Nelson Polsby, our American friend from Berkeley, said on the telephone earlier today, why are you worried that your kids are concerned about you? Most parents don't have kids who care that much. You shouldn't be worried. You should be grateful. The nasty stuff was much worse for Lavender and Frida. While I was trying to run the national campaign for at least part of each day, Lavender had fought the whole election on the ground in Bath, with Frida and 3 marvellous young helpers, including Magnus Goodlad, the very engaging son of Alistair. She threw herself into it and found the insults of liberal black propaganda on the doorstep about my allegedly inadequate performance difficult to sometimes take. One of the myths in politics is that the Liberals are always the nice guys. In reality, they sometimes fight the dirtiest campaigns, much dirtier than Labour or my lot. I guess this is likely to be the end of my political career at Westminster, but I was buoyed up on my return to London in the early hours of this morning with a sort of Roman triumph in Smith Square. Lavender had none of that to ease the pain and disappointment. She is immensely brave and has dealt marvellously well with all the bitterness of defeat. She is incredibly resilient, but that shouldn't make one underestimate how rough it's been for her. I don't think that I could put her through anything like this again. Maybe I should have taken the advice to switch to another constituency like Westbury when it was suggested, even offered. But I couldn't face the prospect of confronting my party workers with what would seem like an admission of defeat. They have been so loyal to me, and I think I owed it to them to be loyal in return. Even some of my friends seem to suggest that this shows that I'm not really professional about my political career that was, I suppose. Anyway, since I got back to London at some godforsaken hour yesterday evening, John has been immensely kind and generous. He kept on referring to his gloom at winning the election while I lost my own seat. No one could have been more considerate or more thoughtful. In among all the shouting and boozing and cheering, he took me into the little office next to my own in Smith Square, where my political advisor used to work. He wanted straight away to run through some of the options for me. He mentioned the possibility of fighting a by-election, going to the House of Lords, continuing as party chairman without a seat in the Commons, or searching for a career in business and trying to get back into the Commons as soon as possible. But we agreed not to take things further that night. I slept on the options insofar as I slept at all. So on the morning of the unexpected, to some, Conservative victory and my own rather humiliating defeat, I walked over to Downing Street from our flat next to Westminster Cathedral. I went through St. James's Park, which is always good for morale, and climbed the steps into Downing Street, getting a very demonstrative salute from the policeman on duty. John and I met on our own in his study. We talked first of all about the cabinet and ministerial appointments. He said that he had wanted to make me Chancellor of the Exchequer. I am at least spared that torture, especially given the difficult position that the economy is in. He then ran through all the options that faced me, adding the possibility of the governorship of Hong Kong. Almost the moment that he mentioned it, this seemed to me the best and most exciting of all the possible choices. We had briefly discussed candidates for this job before the election, and I could remember thinking then that it would be a terrific challenge, and that in other circumstances I would have found it exceptionally attractive. Going through the other possibilities, he began with a ministerial job in the House of Lords, either departmental or as a sort of deputy and progress chaser for him. I don't think that it is possible to run a major department from the House of Lords, either, for example, the Ministry of Defence, or possibly following Douglas Hurd in due course at the Foreign Office. Having seen the difficulties that confronted my former boss, Peter Carrington, during the Falklands affair, it seemed to me that it just wasn't possible to pursue a career in the long term at the centre of politics from the upper house. A by-election seems even more inappropriate. It would be both unseemly and reckless.